I've been changing things up on my YouTube channel here. This has given me some really interesting opportunities to look back on some of the adventures that I've had and some of the ways that my life has changed. And honestly, looking back, can't really connect who I was in the past with who I am because my life has changed so much. My name is Steve Richert and I have type 1 diabetes. I live in a 13-foot trailer with my wife Stephanie, she's a flight attendant, and our daughter Lilo, she's a baby. Nux? YouTube is really good for keeping track of what we're doing with our lives and creative pursuits in general. It forces us to be accountable, to document our life and the things that are important to us. Okay, we're here.
Yeah.
Don't sound too excited.
Yeah, I'll have to go climb it. Cheese! I'm ready to go climb it.
Even at the time that we make these videos, I know a lot of the stuff that I shot on here a couple years ago, they were all things that I really didn't think were very good, and they were all things that didn't get a lot of traffic. From an analytics standpoint, they kind of were flat. Here I am a couple years later looking back at what I've made and what this channel has represented in my life, and it's helping me reposition my compass as I find true north for what I'm trying to create moving forward here with Living Vertical. And it's really scary looking at your own work and saying, hey, I know something needs to change here. What I'm doing is not cutting it for me anymore. I need to make some changes, and wondering if you can reasonably ask your audience to come along on a slightly different journey than maybe the one that they signed up for. And the more I look back on the videos that I've made, I really think about what is it that I set out to do here in the first place? What is it that I'm putting all this time and money and effort in for? And at the end of the day, it's not just to talk about gear, it's not even just to talk about photography and filmmaking, it's to really amplify the power that we have to change the world around us just by our own story and the experiences and the adventures that we can have. Hey Martin, is coming down on this stuff easier than going up?
Easier, I'm not sure. Probably faster.
What makes the approach so incredibly entertaining is the fact that when you step up, you subsequently also slide back down. So it's literally one step forward, well, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Going outside with the camera is where all of this really happens. Adventure isn't just, you know, jumping off of a helicopter and landing on an Icelandic volcano with waterfalls streaming down. I mean, it can be that, but I think that adventure means something a little bit more. It's a little more personal. You know, there are things that I am looking into now because I have to, because I can't be out west climbing mountains all the time. I can't be taking massive amounts of time away from school and my family because I'm going to nursing school, and I want to see my family on the weekends when I'm not in school because I'm away from them. And you know, my life has changed a huge amount, and that's something that is going to be reflected in this channel over the next couple of months, and I want to make you aware of that because that's something that honestly I'm really happy about. I'm excited about because I see a new path moving forward. It's not completely different. In a lot of ways I think it's returning to what the purpose was for this channel when I first started it many years ago. It's like a couple of drops, I hear Martin say, uh-oh, and the wind just kicks up. I can't really move, my legs are kind of asleep. I'm watching Martin, he's all business, grabs our bivy bag, he goes under this little cave, this little rock slab that was next to us. He puts the tarp down, gust of wind comes straight down the tunnel.
And you could see them like above the slab, which goes down 500, 600 meters to the Vowel Glacier. You just saw them hovering into the air, and then they swooped down into the darkness. That was like a oh crap moment that night.
And that was when I knew, it was like, this is it.
I think we were both kind of speechless. we were just kind of deep in some sober thoughts about how we're gonna spend the next few hours.
The idea that story is so much more than megapixels, and yeah, there's definitely still room for, and I'm still interested in having technical discussions and gear, but I really want to just get outside and really push more of my work. You know, I've been inspired by watching guys like Sean Tucker and Thomas Heaton, and you know, I'm definitely a different type of photographer than both of those guys, and the stories that I want to tell and the way that I want to tell those stories are going to be different, but I think that that's more of a direction. If I could compare it somewhat, I would say that that's sort of the direction that I want to head with this channel. I'm not a landscape photographer, so making one single finished image that like knocks people off their feet, that's not really the way that I approach photography. I approach it much more from a documentary standpoint. I want to create a record of multiple images that enable me to be a full participant in the experience that I'm having, and part of that's because I'm going to be, you know, taking on this venture. A lot of times it's going to involve friends and family and the people who are a big part of my life. I'm going to ask you to take this journey with me. I'm going to ask you to be patient, to bear with me. For some people it's not going to be interesting, and you know, if you really want to just hear my insightful gear reviews, well, I'm not really buying new gear right now, so you might have to wait. A large part of what we do here on YouTube and on computers and digital media, it's about surrounding ourselves with people and experiences and stories that inspire us, and that's really what I want to be able to do. I want to bring you stories and inspiration, and I also want this channel to be something that enables me to be accountable. Adventure isn't always big, it's not always epic, it doesn't always require us to spend thousands of dollars and go all over the globe. If we really put in the work and start looking closer to home, we can find things that are beautiful, that are spectacular, that are amazing. So that's what I'm going to be starting off doing here on the channel. I have a series that I know that I want to shoot about waterfalls, and right now I'm in upstate New York. Climbing is a much smaller part of my life. I don't have time to train, I don't have time to drive to the mountains and drive back and still have time for studying and all the other things that I have to do. So streams and water are much more accessible avenues for me to get into nature, and so I'm getting back into fishing with my daughter, and that's really exciting because getting to see her discover this thing that's been a huge part of my life since I was a kid is really awesome. And from a creative standpoint, strictly speaking, I'm on a mission to try to photograph 100 waterfalls that are relatively close to where I live, and there's lots of waterfalls and streams in this area in the Catskills of upstate New York. So I'm gonna walk you through that process. I'm gonna make vlogs about that, share the process and just the experience of being out there. The truth is, I've always cast a much wider net for my adventures. I've gone overseas, I've traveled to the Middle East, I've traveled to Africa and Europe, and spent a lot of time out west and in Canada, and certainly these are wonderful, beautiful, amazing places, but I've, you know, kind of neglected to take the time to do that work that's much closer to home, so that's something I'm going to start doing here. I'm going to be bringing these videos to you every single week, and we're still going to be doing live streams weekly, and I'm going to even throw in, you know, some short form 2 or 3 minute videos about gear discussions and technical discussions in there as well, because that is still part of the process. It's just I want the growth of this channel to come from story. That's why I'm doing this stuff, is because I want to take creative risks and I want to try to tell stories, and some of them are going to flop and some of them are going to be great, but I'm still going to have something to look back on 2 or 3 years from now and say, man, I'm really glad that I made that. And everything that I've done up till this point on YouTube, most of it from an analytical standpoint, from a critical, creative standpoint, you know, it's nothing to write home about. But that doesn't change the fact that I'm really thankful and proud of the time that I took to make the stuff that I made. And that's a journey that I think we can all take together.